Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. Nothing ticks better than Pundit Friday, which we're about to begin here in the WNHH studio with the #1 pundits in the media universe. Pundits like the dairy-free goddess of our grassroots radio operation, the Planned Parenthood board member as of today.
Ooh.
Bella Ball, managing editor of the Inner City News and
Are you
hosting
really rocking?
WNHH's Love Babs program, Babs Rawls Ivy.
Yes.
We got the flyest news hunter-gatherer this side of Fleet Street. The woman who's everywhere in New Haven. Star New Haven independent reporter Markeisha Ricks.
Happy Friday, people.
We do not have
Happy
Norma
Freddie
Rodriguez
Fixer weekend,
Reyes.
people.
That's right. A lot going on this weekend.
Oh my
Good
gosh.
to be black this weekend in
It
New
is.
Haven.
It is.
In New Haven, but not necessarily Hartford. We'll get to that.
Or anywhere else.
Lavos
Yale
Bennett,
dorms.
publisher
well, you know.
Norma Rodriguez Reyes is up in Hartford making history, so she's not on the show this week. We'll have her back next
Go,
week.
Norma, go.
We got WNHA station manager, Heavy D Donald Trump devotee, Harry Droz, the bravest man in New Haven, who breaks the mainstream media with a Sean Hannity Hamill. And we got the conqueror of cannabis commerce, the bright light in the New
Cannabis
Haven
commerce.
night, the straight shooter from Bermuda, the mystical and metaphorical man on the money, the tackler of tempestuousness and titan of temperance, the prince of pleasantries and punctuality, the sorcerer of scientific solution, the blessed beatboxer of banksters and bacchanalians, the just-in-time judge of jackals and japery, the righteous reaper of restitution, Mr. Top 2%er, Joe Ugly of the Joe Ugly Show in the morning. Welcome, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it still morning? It is still morning.
Oh, good afternoon.
No, it's still morning.
No, it's morning.
You
We
know,
got 1
folks,
hour left in the morning.
Oh, I got okay.
W.E.B. Du Bois
Yes.
once wrote the following. The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. The 20th century ended 18 years ago, or 19, depending on how you count that, or 17. I guess that's the whole Y2K thing. We are now in 2018 in May. I'm wondering whether he narrowed that time frame too much. Because it seems like we're talking
I
a
think
lot.
he should have, we should amend it for him that the American problem is the problem of the color line,
Well,
and just leave
he
it at
said
that.
20th century.
He
you
thought
know,
it was going to be fixed.
Yeah, now I'm looking at the headlines of this week
Sorry,
and the stories we're
W.E.B. Du
talking
Bois.
about, and it seems like the color line seems to figure into so many stories we talk about.
Every story is
All
about
the
color.
stories.
Like one
Not
story,
just what we talk about. If you're talking about we here at
and
Independent New Haven
America and New
like,
Haven.
really globally.
Yeah. So look
Every conversation.
and look at the state convention they're starting in tonight in Hartford and this weekend, the state Democratic convention. You know, race is always a factor, but it sort of became the factor quietly this week. Ned Lamont has been clearing the field. Only Joe Ganim is really there left taking him on. It was all we had something like 25 people running for governor in two parties. The governor's office is open for the first time in 8 years. Not a single one of them was black or brown. For about 7 seconds, there was a woman who was Indian American, and then she switched races. So everyone said, who's active party, I mean, there are a lot of black, brown people in the party, and a lot of white people believe in racial justice and say there are enough. It's not a qualifications issue. There are plenty of people qualified for certainly a lot of these state jobs. And when they're open for the first time in a generation, and you have a history, the Democratic Party has never, ever had someone who's not white except as governor or lieutenant governor candidate. They said this time we got to have at least one. And so Ned Lamont's been clearing the field. He's this rich guy from Greenwich who's buying, buys his campaigns. He just puts $10 million into his campaign and hires everybody, but doesn't win. And he's getting the nomination, it looks like. And he gave people the impression, right or wrong, that I'm putting someone of color on the ticket. He had a meeting planned with Gary Holder Winfield, state senator from New Haven, to maybe be his lieutenant governor candidate. And then, in order to get rid of one of his last remaining competitors, Susan Beisowitz, who's white, who they have nothing in common. People have not been thrilled about Susan's campaign. He decides to bring her on as lieutenant governor candidate. You know, that whole kind of...
And she also is someone who doesn't win elections, right?
Right.
Okay.
She's been
just
like,
checking.
she used to, and then she's run for everything to no avail for the last 8 years. And he puts her on as lieutenant governor candidate, and he thought this was an exciting moment. And people saying, well, what about us? And there's been almost a revolt in the ranks. There's a woman now taking on Susan for lieutenant governor, Eva Bermudez Zimmerman. saying that it's time. She's a labor organizer from Newtown, formerly Waterbury. She's been active at the Capitol on a lot of issues like signing up people for the Obamacare plan, which is what the lieutenant governor's been sort of taking the lead on currently, Nancy Wyman. So some people say, well, why don't we want someone who's been in politics at the Capitol? And Gary Winfield, who's now endorsing her, said she's been there in a really important way and involved in the issues, and then she'll learn. But in any case, I think there might be a revolt today. There's a 2 p.m. press conference with a lot of politicians of color backing her. Vinnie Morrow, who's white, the town chair of New Haven, he was so upset because he heard so much from people in New Haven and Bridgeport and Hartford saying you're sucker punching our base. He said it was a mistake publicly, even though he had been committed to Lamont, saying this is a loser and this is terrible for our ticket. And it's not just going to be black and brown people saying we need someone black and brown at some point at the top of the ticket. I think you might see a revolt at the convention about this. I could be wrong. But I think you'll see a primary for sure. She'll get her 15% of delegates to qualify for a party primary. And
Susan Bicewicz will be beat yet again.
But she will maybe take the party down with her to get there. I don't know.
Who takes Susan?
Well, Susan, if I were Susan, I'd step aside for the good of the party and say,
Yeah, but she's not going to do that because she's a white woman.
And she's got enough support clearly to probably get the endorsement, but not keep Eva Bermudez off the ballot.
What is that? Q Dream Girls? I'm telling you, I'm not going. Cue that.
Well, a couple things are interesting to me about this episode. One is, and I'm just looking as an outsider, as a white guy, I often hear when people talk about black-brown politics, it's not always as neat as it sounds, like an automatic coalition. I often hear, for instance, Norm, who she runs the Connecticut Latino Democrats. They always say that when it comes time, black people always say, why do white people always get the jobs? And we're told your turn will come later, and there's always a reason we can't get the slot. Then when a slot opens, we're always told it has to go to an African-American first. In this case, you're going to see a lot of African-American politicals lining up behind a Latina, which could have implications about unity. I'm hearing dead silence here.
So, what's your point?
My point is this could be,
because it sounds like this is
significant.
Exactly what they should do. That bridges. Like I know Norma in the past has said that that there's this kind of order of things, and that is the way things have been done in the past. But look what the past has gotten us: white candidates, white candidates, white candidates, white candidates. So this is exactly what they should do. They should totally put their power together.
I was saying it with a thumbs up. I was waiting to see what you guys thought. Like, is this significant?
So this is what they should be doing, and they should figure out more ways to do it.
Listen. I think Susan Bicewicz is a talented woman who can run just about anything, anywhere.
She did a bad job at some of those controversies as Secretary of State when they found all those ballots. She hid in the back room.
She believes she can do all these things, whatever.
No, she's very intelligent and she's a responsible person. I'm not saying she was not a superstar manager. What Denise Merrill has shown how to lead, took national lead. Do you think
Lamont was like?
It was a calculation, clearly.
Yeah, I think
this is an opportunity to eliminate somebody in the field. Like,
I think he's clueless. I think he has no idea. He buys black people. He hires them to work for him.
But you know what?
You know that's against the law.
But exactly.
I think his intentions are fine, but he's a clueless guy from Greenwich.
But in addition to him being clueless, like Susan being clueless too, NAACP Freedom Fund just happened. Dinner just happened. Who was the one candidate there? Guy Smith.
But I would say that's another kind of purchase history.
Yes, but still, like this is where some of the brokers are.
Look at Joe.
Yeah. This is where some of the brokers are. I know of people who've offered to take candidates or who have in the past taken candidates to churches. Like, this is where black people are. You got to go where black people are, but you can't come to black people. Like, A, they ain't even bothering to go to black people. And then secondly, when you do go to black people, you can't turn around and say, well, y'all wait, next time. It'll be your turn next time. And black and brown folks are tired of that.
And when you can't even turn the lieutenant governor position, there'll be plenty
Stop coming
of people
to our neighborhoods asking for votes.
Gary Winfield would have been amazing. They wanted to get Tony Harp, Tony Walker. They didn't want to go on, and for good reasons. But I don't know. See, Ned is not inspired anyway. I couldn't figure this whole rush to Ned Lamont that occurred. He's a very decent man, but he hasn't ever really won anything, run anything that has to do with politics, government.
Listen, we have a president with that same MO. We have a president that sits in the White House with that same MO.
And hopefully people are good and fatigued to that.
Ain't got no votes to do it.
Joe.
Well, thank you, because I need the floor.
I
said,
take the floor, brother.
2 months ago, I said, I guarantee you, Ned Lamont is going to do something that's going to mess up his chance. I said it. I reflect back to when he ran for U.S. Senator against Joe Lieberman and then went on vacation.
Right.
That
He
was
wins
a-
the primary. He goes on vacation, and Joe steamrolls him. He never catches him.
Never caught up. And I said, this guy's going to get the nomination. Don't be surprised if you see a Joe Ganim rising to the top.
Did he pick a lieutenant
Joe-
governor yet?
Joe Ganem's
see-
been like sitting on Eva Bermuda saying, please, please, please run
See,
with me. I think she'd be smarter to run
And
on her
like,
own.
on her own.
But she's getting a lot of pressure. I'm told that maybe the household that she lives in is a little bit divided on this
Ooh.
question.
Okay,
but,
I'm just going to
Well, all right.
interject this again. Okay, now I know I said this before along the same time when I said Ned Lamont is going to mess up. I'm saying it again. With mass incarceration as it's been in this country for the last 25 years, and people choose to overlook this, there is no one that don't know someone, related to someone, or probably spent time behind bars. That's not an issue anymore. People can connect
so
to
what you're
that.
saying is that Ganem could connect. to people.
Ganem could connect with people and blow through this thing.
Okay.
Don't fall asleep on that.
Okay, Joe, you do get your props because he did say these things, and he did say in this big field that Ganem was going to connect. Can I push back as you guys, as the resident white guy?
Oh.
Okay, there's no question that Joe Ganem, the other guy now left standing, connects well with people. He's a smart politician, and he's using this race issue. He's white, but from the beginning, he knew this was a real issue. He's jumping on this, and I don't blame him for it. What I keep coming back to is I understand that because of how, especially black community, but a lot of communities have been really hurt by this drug war, unfair incarceration, need for second chances. Someone gets the support just because he was in jail and stole a lot of money from the people.
That's
He
not
doesn't
why
need to
he's
That's
getting
add-
the
not why.
support. Like you've
That's not
always
why.
conflated that.
Yes,
that's not
that's
why
not
he gets the
why.
support. He gets the support
Well-
because he gets people.
Right.
He relates to them. They see him as relatable. They
That's
don't see
right.
that. They don't see Ned Lamont as relatable. I don't care how
Hands
much he
down,
dresses
that's true.
down.
That's
Hands down, you're right
They
about
don't.
that.
They don't see Susan that way.
Right.
You're right. There's no question you're right. That explains why Joe Ganem's
What
still
what I
standing.
think Joe Ugly is saying is that people are willing to overlook that, given the current field of folk. Now, if Kevin Limbo was running, we wouldn't be talking about
Right.
Joe Ganem.
Right.
I understand why to overlook it, but why affirmatively support it until someone's proved he's done something that would make him worth putting in the hands of government?
Paul, okay, let me connect this if I may. What we're looking at is an individual one who could connect to he could connect with people. He make people feel like I understand your pain. I understand your situation. The only thing that Ganem have against him that can be thrown against him is his time behind bars. And that in today's world have no standing because people could already connect because they know
I'm
someone.
1,000% with you. It's what
And
happens
that's
when you
what-
come out of bars. He's hitting up the same contractors to try to go to Hartford that he did last time.
And
I don't know
so
if I have
I don't know what
What's
you mean
changed?
by that.
What's changed?
I don't
What
know
has he
exactly
done
what
that makes
means.
him to be a good governor?
But he can't run on in the citizens election
right, so
program.
he
he
does
can't
try to do
get
that,
he
you're right,
can't get that.
but what has he
So
done-
where would money come from if he doesn't have supporters? I'm
Right.
just trying to.
So no, but what has he done affirmatively that says he learned and he's going to do things differently? He'd be good at it. What tells you that what shows you that he's changed?
But why? Listen, the fact that he comes out and he's not committing crimes,
Exactly.
I think that's the
Sounds
change
like
we can
change.
believe in.
But,
I don't know. Listen,
Is that enough?
what
Yes,
do
Is that
you mean?
I don't see that. I don't
And I
see
think
that
for you,
winning.
Paul, the thing is, it's not enough for you. It's gonna be enough for some people. And like Joe is saying, which is that there are people who've been through an experience of being incarcerated, and while they're not saying, "Oh, you've been incarcerated, I've been incarcerated, I'll vote for you," no, what they're saying is, if somebody's willing to overlook my stuff and give me another
Thank you.
chance, I'm willing to
To
overlook
overlook
I'm
your
with
stuff.
you.
And give-
But then show me why
And
he
so
should
I'm
be
not willing to
governor.
hold it because people want him to be governor. That's why.
But you
Why?
don't. But you don't ask the same. Are you
Exactly.
asking the same question to all the other
I
candidates?
sure am. I've had them in
well,
here for an hour each.
But you
Okay.
know something, Paul? Here's what you got to
I
realize.
want to know what you're going to do for the state and make it work right.
Okay.
We have a lot
But
of
so
problems
many
in this
people are
state.
so busy, I think, talking about Joe Ganem's record that we never get to hear about
You
what he
never
actually wants to
really
do
do.
for the
No,
state.
I've had him in
That's
here for
exactly
2
what I'm
hours.
trying
That's
to
you,
say.
Paul. What
I
about the
had
rest
Joe
of the
in-
state?
And Joe, I really like Joe.
Okay, so what did he
Joe's
say
a
in the
good
2
man.
hours? What did he say that he would do for the state?
I didn't hear a single new idea.
Okay,
Does it
but
have to
did
be
it
new
have to be
idea?
new?
Not, he just says he's going to create a lot of commissions.
So who
Okay,
has a
so-
new idea?
I think Connolly has ideas. Jonathan Harris has ideas.
What are-
I think
what are those?
I think Mike Handler has
You
ideas.
see, you can have ideas There could even be new ideas, but are they necessarily?
But
The
if you
right
found, but if you
ideas.
found
Yeah.
out, but if you found out that they all had records, would those new ideas still be the thing that you
It
be
wouldn't
holding
be the
on
records.
to?
I'd like to see what they've done since they've been out. Because I
Okay.
agree. Anyway, I agree with you guys. You've explained to me why Ganem's doing well. I will make one prediction. And that if Joe Ganem is the candidate for the Republican
That
Party
they're
in
not gonna
November,
win.
and again, I think I do give him credit for bouncing back. I do think he's a good guy. I like dealing with him. He's earning it. I think
has
he will
bad
not
ideas.
crack 30%.
Okay,
He will
Paul-
not crack
Paul-
30% in the general
okay,
election.
Paul,
Harry's
I
trolling
take
you.
you on one-on-one. Okay.
Harry's trolling us.
That's just okay. You guys
talking
opened
about
my
Joe
mind
Biden.
here. You really did.
I know, but people
You
don't know
opened my
that.
mind and challenged me, but I do promise you that if Joe Ganem is the candidate, or even Ned Lamont, there's not going to be any Democrat in the governor's office.
And I think that's where we're really going. That they're
I don't see that.
conceding
I don't
they're
see
conceding
that.
to the Republicans.
That's
Joe, there are
something-
800,000 unaffiliated voters in the state,
Okay.
the
They're
largest
gonna go
group.
Republican.
Okay.
I
yes.
think 800,000 plus another 100,000 of them will not vote for Joe Ganem.
You think that, and let's remember that. This is all
You got
about
a
Y'all
third
got a
right
party
y'all got
now.
a bet
Oz
going
Green.
on, right?
Okay.
We need to have one. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think it is my personal belief that when I say mass incarceration, I hope someone is not sitting out here listening to me and thinking I'm just talking about the black community. I hope they not think I'm just talking about the minority community. There are a lot of people that's been in prison and they have figured out what the heck is going on. You know, they even felt like their loved one or whomever has been wrongfully incarcerated. Whatever it is, and they're willing to overlook that. And if that's the only reason why you think when you go into that 800,000 group, they're not going to vote for him, what other choice? There's not an independent running.
Yes, there is. Oz
Yeah.
Griebel.
Well, thank you.
I
There's
think
not an independent
I got to
running.
tell you something. Oz
you go.
Griebel can get 20% of the vote, and that'll be enough to bury the Democrats. Eunice Gork got 19%, similar profile. The difference this time is Oz Griebel, who is, I'm not saying he's great. I'm not going to necessarily go
but
for
you
Oz
don't
Griebel.
have the
but
name
he's,
recognition.
he's running with a guy from Newtown who is a Democratic,
So what's the
advocate.
population out of Newtown to pull this? What? He's running with someone who's
I
Democratic?
think
from-
people are going to be looking third party if it's Gannon Boughton.
I don't think so.
And I think we get Governor Boughton.
I honestly don't think so. I'm going, listen, Ned Lamont may get the nomination from the Democratic Party. Joe Ganem stay in there. He can be governor.
I think I'll give you one thing I think we'll agree on. Joe Ganem's fighting for it and working for it and hustling.
Absolutely
Lamont's
hustling.
trying to buy it in a clueless way.
And then you ask, what did he do? And then you ask, what ideas? He's showing that he's willing to work. He's showing, even with old ideas, he's willing to work.
Just a quick thing with the Republican Party. I thought it was very interesting that the GOP nominated Mark Lee for lieutenant governor over Aaron Stewart. And I feel like they're making a statement about where they think the party should go.
That was
in the
amazing.
state.
Well, that's another thing. And I always remind people that listening to Pundit Friday and went through 5 FM Live Stream New Haven Independent down. So
Let the
here's what's
riches
the-
begin.
I love that Marquisha brought this up. I think both parties are doing something amazing this year. They're competing for who can get rid of their most promising candidates so that they can lose elections.
Yes.
Now, so you brought up the lieutenant governor race now. Joe Markley's one of my favorite people in Connecticut. He's a very honest, kind, smart person. He's the most extreme right winger in government. He is so far to the right, right? So their party had Erin Stewart, who I don't know. I'm not saying if she's any good or not good. She clearly doesn't have a lot of depth on issues. I think she'd be such an unbeatable candidate for governor. 31-year-old woman, moderate Republican, pro-choice, who runs a city with strong, especially Latino, but also black support. How could the Republicans not run someone like that when they've been out of the governor's office for 8
and
years?
not,
those
and
like-
even if she switches to
So
lieutenant
not only
governor,
that, they
not
pushed
I'm
endorsing
her.
sorry.
her.
Do you know it's the Republican Party?
But no, they're doing the same
Well,
thing
yeah,
the
we're gonna-
Democrats
Countess
are
do
doing,
the same
though.
thing too. But in
It's
any
the
case,
same thing,
the
though.
Republicans pushed her, didn't give her any support to run for governor, and then she runs for lieutenant governor, and they gave the nomination overwhelmingly to Joe Markley, who's so far to the right. Great guy, but so far to the right. And I just think they don't want to win. And then in the 5th U.S. Congressional District, there's the new woman who was Teacher of the Year, African-American woman in the 5th District for Elizabeth Estes' seat, who I'm told, my sources tell me, that every time she walks in a room in that district, people stop what they're doing and they stand up and they applaud. This woman has like charisma, which is that quality everybody needs, as well as she's a fresh face. She's a woman. She's African-American. She has all this new energy and has a legacy of accomplishment. They didn't give her the endorsement. Now, she's going to have a primary, and that's the right way to win it. But they gave it to Mary Glassman, who ran with Ned Lamont, a conservative
I remember-
Democrat.
yeah.
Good woman. Conservative Democrat with zero charisma, who last ran and lost statewide office 12 years ago. What's going on with people not wanting to win elections?
Connecticut is the state of steady habits.
State of steady habit.
They
To
don't
our detriment.
This is the change, though. This is the change for both parties, right? Like it's a decision to either status quo or go forward, to push forward. Even Aaron Stewart said, "Are you really going to put 2 white guys at the top of the ticket? Are you going to do that in this day and age?"
In the Republican Party.
And even in the Republican Party, like, are you going to do that? It's either we're going to be the state of steady habits or we're going to be the state that's going to go
So
forward.
you guys are opening my mind about Joe Ganim. I'm definitely going to keep an open mind on this. So you help me understand what's going on.
Please keep the open mind on Joe
It'll be
Ganim.
interesting to see what happens.
Please do not think that this guy is done. Anyone
He's not
who
done.
He's certainly going to fight for it.
I am telling you.
Listen, he could talk about other things, but as I said to him, every time you walk in the room, they're going to pull the you serve time card.
Mhm.
So every time they pull that card,
They help
you,
him.
you give it to them.
They help him.
You don't run away from it. Then you make that whole conversation be about that, and everybody
Exactly.
else is
But you
silent.
said
Right.
about that in terms of like, okay, what do we really mean by second chance society? What do we mean by
Right,
criminal
yes.
justice reform?
Right.
What do we mean by these, like,
And then
just
make everybody
punch
else,
him in the face
everybody
with
else
it.
got to
I
answer
guess
that
And they
question.
gotta have that
I guess I
conversation.
still wish he would say, "Here's what I did wrong and what I learned from it."
He
No,
did
but,
say that on my show.
but here's what
I
he,
never heard on the show a specific. He
But
never
he-
said anything about the way he raised money, the gifts he took, the way he sold the city developers, the business he did with Donald Trump trying to bring casino.
Harry. Paul, he served his time. He doesn't owe anybody.
No,
a
but I want to
further-
know as a voter, I want to know what he learned from it. What do you do different?
Listen, Paul,
he served his time.
Paul, he served his time.
You're absolutely right.
That's
Pal.
it. He
No.
served his time,
and that's
and he does
also
not
You-
owe that to you.
He don't.
and he
But
might he
to win
won't
my
get
vote-
your he won't
No,
get
no.
your vote
No.
because if he's not giving you whatever it exactly is that you want,
Right.
he's not going to get your vote.
Correct.
But he doesn't need just your vote. He needs other people's votes. So if there are other people who don't care about
Well,
that,
no
who
one
are
has
willing
my
to
vote.
vote for
He
him,
has as much chance as
then
anyone to
he
get my vote.
is.
He has as much chance.
But
I
maybe
guess
he's
Barry-
And
willing to
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I hear what you're
No,
saying.
I hear what you're saying too. He doesn't owe an explanation. But if you want to get elected office again, when you abuse the elected office,
But here's the thing.
Why should- you don't
Paul.
deserve
What is
that.
the language? He's already said, "I'm sorry." He's already shown he's sorry.
I'm not
He
asking
has
for
lost
apologies.
a great deal.
Then what
I'm
are
not
you
asking
asking
apologies.
for? What are you
I wanna
asking
understand
He
for?
wants
in my
to know
mind.
chapter and verse
No,
how
no,
you've learned from
I
this
want to know how he's going to
experience.
govern. Like, in other words, if somebody goes to jail for stealing money and selling out government, before I put him back in government,
So you want him
I
to
wanna
say,
know-
like, these are my
I
policies
don't want
for
him to say. I want to
transparency.
say, like, well, when I took this money from Donald Trump, or when I took that massage in those cases of wine, you know, when I govern now, what I learned from it was, and maybe he could have said the reason I want to run with public financing is that I believe in that because I'm a human and everyone runs for office is human and the system's kind of set up in a way that it corrupts people who aren't even corrupt.
You should go
and they
back
try
and listen to
run.
my conversation
No,
because
that's
I
what
I did.
exactly
because
you
I
want to
raised
hear. I'm
that.
saying, Paul. You see, they said it right. Those are that's the language you want to hear. But if he's not given that an apology, I mean, just doing
don't
this
want an
time.
apology.
No, just doing this time is not enough for you.
It's
You
enough
want
for him
to-
to have a second chance in life to do great things.
Well, then I
So
want.
what-
but
I'm
I'm
so
talking
around
about
that.
win a vote to get public trust.
But
I-
around that same line, I want that from every candidate.
candidate.
I want to know why
True.
these candidates who are running 1,000 times for all these different things, what have you learned from losing?
And why
And
Lamont?
how does that help you
Or
be an
Lamont-
effective
Lamont's
governor?
the
I like
same-
that,
Lamont's the
Markeisha.
some money
Like, I
issue.
think it's a great way to ask questions. It's a great way to ask
Yeah.
deeper questions. Like, why you?
Definitely.
Why
Like
you?
Susan
Like, you
Beisowitz-
don't win anything. Why you?
Size and Bice was
And when
stuck
you
in.
were Secretary of the State, you were terrible.
Why
Like,
were you hiding when they
you?
had
How
those
are you
battles?
better?
Bice was stuck at the Lamont before she started running with them. She said, "Why are you running? Not only are you not running with public financing, trying to buy an election, you're going to spend more
How
than
do
the
you-
rest of us in the
How do
primary.
you square that
you
with
can't use
the progressive
excuse
people you
of-
had in your back?
Exactly.
And that's why he lost the progressive people. by
But
the
no,
way.
I'm talking about
No.
Susan Beisowitz now.
No.
So what I'm saying is that Joe Gannon, he doesn't owe me an apology. I don't want him to say words I'm putting in his mouth. I want to see what he thinks. I want to see what
Well,
he
you're not
learned.
going to see what he thinks. That's not going to work because meaning emphasis on see and think. It's just impossible. But we got to try to understand here. I see. I clearly understand what you're saying, Paul. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think the populace is caught up on it. I really don't.
And plus, that's just my thing. I've always really
Yeah, that's
cared
true.
about clean government. I've cared about that a lot
I'm
across the board.
with you on that. I think we
It's
all
not,
want to
it's
have
not,
some.
but it's not everybody's priority the same way.
I mean, I think
we all
I mean,
want
I think
clean
you-
government.
I think we all want. But I
Everyone
think
want clean government. But I mean, at the end of the day, This is what we have. This is what we have to work with.
Right, and my mind's open. I'm not with any one candidate. Joe Ganem's a good man.
Me
He's
either.
in the
I'm
mix.
not with
Joe
any one
Ganem's in the
candidate
mix.
either.
He's showing up. He's not embarrassed. He's showing up.
Right.
And plus, Joe Ganem had the best moment in the debate in New Haven.
And I would
When they
tell
said what
Joe
they're going to do
Ganem,
about guns, is he's the only one who understood how to use lever power. I'll make the case for Joe
well,
Ganem.
if you're in jail,
Joe
with
Ganem
the
was the
people
one
who pull
person who
guns,
said,
then you know
he said,
about gun issues,
when everyone
you know?
said, I'll try to get this bill passed, he said, I'm going to do an executive order. And we're going to take these actions against the gun makers, and I'm not going to wait. And actually, that is true. Joe Ganem does understand power, and it's important to understand power if you're going to govern and you're not going to be pushed around. So I'm not saying that he has nothing to offer himself, that he hasn't been a successful person.
I just think it's interesting.
I'm not as enamored as this like build ballparks, build casinos approach to government. He now still wants to build a casino. He still wants to bring in sports betting. I don't think there's anything dirty about that on his end. I think it's a legitimate conversation. I think that's the wrong approach. I think that you're building it on addiction with revenues that end up disappearing in 5 years when you get
I know, but we do that. But we have this conversation. How is that different than Hartford and insurance companies, and they've been here for 100 years, and then now they go other places.
So what I believe is that you invest in infrastructure so that you let viable job-creating buildings grow, and that's what you do.
Yeah, but we can't get an airport. We can't get an airport expanded.
The worst person on this was Ned Lamont, because Ned Lamont was at that same debate. Joe Ganem says, yeah, I'm for casinos. I want this. And then people say, does the casinos prey on people with gambling addictions and depend on that for revenues? Is that unjust? And Joe said, no. Ned Lamont said, yes, I'm for the casino. Yes, I think that's a terrible thing about legalized gambling. So I said, so how can you be for both?
Right. You're trying to say
what he's saying is, I'm for casinos, and I think that's terrible, but I don't care, is what he's essentially said.
No, what he's saying is that I'm finally getting union support for some bizarre reason, and the unions want the casino.
So exactly, like he's like,
Listen,
I don't care whatever gets me elected.
Joe Ganem is faced with a city that was where are they going to get their revenue from? I mean, so he's looking at, okay, what can I get revenue?
And they've tried everything. They've had a semi-pro baseball team. They've had
everything they tried.
And
Bridgeport.
And again, fair argument is that some of us feel like those kind of corporate subsidies for arenas and baseball teams, which is what Joe did back then. That was Joe's deal.
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of people think that is a good idea. So it's not like you're bad for having that position. I am roundly against that kind of corporate welfare. I think that all public dollars investments should be about public schools, job creation, roads, and public safety.
But
like you said,
job creation?
Exactly. That's how can people?
But
like Bridgeport needs an industry.
But what you do is these
they
companies
don't have.
leave. If you give them the corporate welfare, you give them a lot of money up front from us. They take it till they don't need any more and play against each other. You never get the taxes. You never get the jobs. Alexion lasted 1 year.
Right, and then
with
they
the
But
millions they got.
here's the other part of this. When developers come in with their own money to build high-end apartments, luxury apartments, everybody got their lips out about affordable housing.
Right.
And if they're not taking any of our money and they want to do what they want to do, they want to make these apartments $5 million a pop. Then that's money that's coming into the coffers of the city.
Yeah, we're fine on that.
We're fine on that.
We're fine.
We're fine telling them what to do with their money.
And then we look at our investments about how to include affordable housing. That's working.
But we want to
Tony
have.
Harp's
But
got
listen,
the right idea
but
on
then
that.
you get people like the Duck and Hotel people who want to stop them from doing what
But they didn't really
want
want
to
to
do.
stop them. You know what they really wanted?
That
They
was
wanted to
union.
say you
Yeah,
have to promise you have a union.
But that's what I
Then
mean.
they
Look at
stopped
all
caring
these.
5
Look at
minutes
all
later.
these things that are
roadblocks.
yes.
One after the next.
And I'm
Joyce
not
felt-
saying organized labor is a roadblock
No,
because
it's not.
I'm a fan and I'm a supporter of organized
Me too.
labor.
I
However,
have to agree with
however,
everything.
they get it twisted too.
I agree. And Joyce Farrell Catalano weighs in. Thank you for listening, Joyce. He's a politician. It's all about the money. Thank you for listening to Pundit Friday on 103.5 FM.
Everything's about money. When I go to
And
work,
they're
I
all
expect
I
to
thought
be-
everything was about
We're
race.
all politicians, and we all listen.
It's
It's about race. It's about money. Oh,
What's
money's
that?
green. It's all about green. Harry Jost, what do you say?
I say go Ganem.
Now that's from the Donald Trump fan, Harry Dross. Joe Ganem and Donald Trump were doing business until Joe Ganem went to jail, and it was all about building casinos. That's all I'm saying.
Listen,
if
people.
you're doing business with Donald Trump, if the business is working,
Every business deal with
Yeah, but-
Donald Trump was a rip off the governments and a conduit for Russian money.
all right.
Every-
Listen.
Yep.
And yet,
Well, I think whoever
Every.
gets to be the next
I think-
governor
no,
of our state needs to have a plan for cities. Like
And
cities
Joe
are
Ganem
clearly
does
and-
understand cities
Right.
better than the other
and
people.
we
I'll
need
give him
somebody
that.
who
Yeah.
understands cities and
He
who
does.
understands that. Look, we're basically we are all in this together. We're gonna
right?
shared
if our
destiny.
state exactly our
Okay,
state.
I'll give you Ganem on this one. Ganem knows what it's like to have to balance an urban budget, how to deal with the different people in town, like the builders, like the unions, like the ward people, and that's actually important information to have.
Oh wow.
And he
nice.
does that. No, I'm not like I don't hate Joe Ganem. He's
No,
fine.
we know.
I mean, I think
want more of
I
these.
want to know that.
I'm quite
I
sure
want
you
my
have more
person.
of those.
That's been my-
I don't think you dislike him.
No.
I think though
Paul
that you
can't
don't
get
think
over
he's
it.
paid enough.
Right. Exactly.
No. He hasn't proved to me that it's fine. Second chance.
He
He
has
doesn't owe
no
me an
proof to
apology
him.
as a voter. He hasn't proved
As
to
a
me that he has a
voter.
lot of ideas
No, I like
about
how you
learning
use
from
as
it.
a voter though, Paul, but I gotta call you on that one. I don't know if I feel it if it's as a voter or if it's as Paul.
I don't know.
No.
12 votes.
Just like,
But anyway,
just
My
like,
point was it
just
personal
like-
or was it?
Paul
It's not
just happens
personal.
to be
I'm
like
not
one of the
personal.
most informed voters
Yes.
like
No,
ever.
I am
Yeah.
not personal.
And he actually has done something that most voters don't. And this is the other divide, right? So most individual voters, and it's not to knock people, but they're just kind of watching it shake out, right? Like it's who's I don't need to get hype about the 25 people running because 25 of them aren't going to be on the ballot.
it's like American Idol.
So yeah, so we whittle down to the people and people do go, but like they make their choices based on a little bit of information and a lot of who they like the most. So unlike you, who got to sit down with like every person
Right.
and talk to
Which
them
is
and
a
ask them
luxury.
any question. Most people, and he's doing it so people can actually sit down and
And
listen.
listen.
But I'll give Ganem
Yes.
one more props.
Most
in the
people
way
don't,
that he
and
understands.
so they're gonna choose the person
Hold
they
on,
like.
hold on. Give him one more.
I'll give him
prop.
one props, which is that in the ways that he's
You just wanted to
savvy
have one
about the
more
way
prop.
things work. Ned Lamont is the most clueless of the 25 people running for governor. About he was on that stage when he got slapped by Susan Bisowitz at a debate. He didn't even realize the reason that was happening is he being singled out was because the AFL-CIO had picked him in a straw poll and he was now the target. I mean, he doesn't really know what's going on around him, and you got to
And
know
that
You got-
is
he will
scary.
not operate.
Super
So
scary.
Joe
He's like
Ganem-
a liberal Donald Trump. Like that sounds scary.
but like Malloy and Ganem, will they understand if they say, okay, we want to get these two things happening in Hartford? They know whose knees have to break. They knew who needs to get. You're gonna have to compromise on another bill to get him in. They're gonna need they're gonna see it through and make it happen. Whereas I think Ned will be a passive figure as a governor.
Key word.
Yeah.
Key word. Passive.
Right.
And that's the most scariest person to put in power. Someone who is passive aggressive.
And somebody who
any
doesn't
passive period.
understand the process, right? Like
Yeah.
enough to like, where do I need to
And
apply
that's why-
pressure?
and that's why they're passive, because they don't understand where it's coming. So it's-
Because what's going to happen is the legislature is going to run the state. Like the governor's
Exactly.
office isn't going to have any power.
Well, actually, I would argue the most important election is about the legislature this
Yeah.
year. It's really up for grabs, and we're going to be either a blue or a purple-red state based on the legislature.
Yeah.
yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't think that is going to happen.
And the Republicans are
Really,
chomping
Joe?
at the
You know,
bit.
the
They're
polls say it
chomping.
will.
I don't care what the polls say. Polls didn't
Really?
say Trump was going to win.
So weren't they right? Wait,
He's like,
the
I'm
polls
going.
were wrong? The
I'm
polls were
with
wrong?
you. I'm
You
with you, Joe.
You know,
I'm with
I don't care
you.
what the polls say. You know, when you
So.
talk to people out here and you start hearing people how people really feel about stuff, you might listen. The loud ones always get heard the most, but that don't mean that they speak for everyone.
And Joe's like, the polls never called my house. Same,
Really?
Joe.
I've
Same.
never got a poll.
And nobody's ever called me, asked for my opinion.
Right?
Well,
what's
I've
your-
been called. but-
I want to ask your opinion
That's
about.
because you live in on Bellevue.
I want to ask your opinion about the rules for the Yale Police
They thought
Department.
they were getting somebody Jewish.
What the rules? The rules. Jeez.
I missed
Sorry.
that one.
It's like, oh, it's a black lady.
Oh no, it was a community thing.
So the Yale Police Department
Yes.
is a police force.
A
They have
private
police powers. No, it's a
Yeah.
public police
It's a
force.
public police force?
Well, that's the argument.
Mm.
So they claim they're public when they want to arrest us, detain us, and patrol downtown. They have more officers than New Haven Police downtown, and they're the ones who
Jeez.
stop the kids on the bikes or arrest us or harass us or keep us from getting mugged. Right? So they have public
Keep
police
who from
powers.
getting mugged?
Okay, that's a good question. So they're
So wait, where your
they
Yale
are
ID
a
at?
police force with
This is
public
expired.
police powers to take our liberty or our life. They also, when it's convenient, argue they're a private police force. So years ago, they didn't. When there was
Oh, I know
a
what this is
16-year-old
about.
black kid who was on a bike, and his lawyer felt that he was being singled out and profiled. They said, well, we don't have to release any reports because we're a private force.
Mhm.
So they lost at the Freedom of Information Commission. They said, you're a police force. You have powers of the government to go out there and stop people on the street. You got to
Give us
release this
your
stuff.
report.
So now we have a new fight on that issue with Yale. Because I feel like they feel like they're like the plantation. They're forced to go out there and keep everyone in line on their plantation, but they don't have to answer to anybody. So we had this incident we talked about at length last week. Remember I said it's about the color line still, so that whole issue at Yale. It's been a very interesting conversation. I loved our conversation last week about the black student who was had the police called out her for
Sleeping
napping
while
in her
black.
dorm. Yeah, so that whole incident, I think people know what we're talking about. So we decided that one of the crucial issues that hadn't been proved yet was how the police might have dealt differently with the white student who complained and the black student who was questioned and told she had invalid ID and maybe shouldn't belong to live there while she's there with her dorm room that she opened with her key for 15 minutes. So the black woman had the presence of mind to use Facebook Live. So 1.5 million people and more at last count have watched how the police dealt with her, and it was pretty bad. Yale still won't admit it. The white student was questioned by a separate cop upstairs. They have body camera video. They will not release it. So the New Haven Independent this week said, well, under Freedom of Information law, you got to give us the body camera video. And the police chief wrote me back. It was clear one of their lawyered letters, because Yale wrote their $23 billion endowment against the toughest lawyers. They started making up these reasons that they can't give me the video. They say, well, we don't want the identities out of the students or protecting their identity. These are students that tens of millions of people have now seen their pictures and heard their names on every media outlet and TV station. The second reason was we need to corroborate facts like an ongoing investigation. They put it out, their own version that said, we know what happened, there was no crime. So thing is, they might win on something. So I ran this by the letters, FOI lawyers, FOI people. They said two things. They said, they're making this up. They're totally wrong on the law. And they have good lawyers. You might lose. So we're in a fight. All right. So we have appealed it to the Freedom of Information Commission. But I think it gets to something fundamental, because they might be able to argue a lot in our dorm. They're still going back partly to how we're not quite like a police force, but they know they'll lose on that one. So now they're going under federal law. We have to protect our students, and their privacy.
Well, stay on it. I mean, it's not.
We're going to stay on it. It's pissing me off much more than Joe Gannon.
How you think it's
Like,
making
now
me
I'm
feel?
mad.
How you think it's making me feel as a Yale parent?
And I'm
Right.
saying, I'm like,
Well, I
maybe
gotta
Yale
understand.
parents will riot at,
know,
like all the minority
given
parents
that,
will get
and
together
Yale
and riot
believes they
at
issued great-
graduation this year.
And Yale believes they issued great statements about this, like, we care about diversity. We're listening to her. I said, what about the fact that they were arguing with this woman at 1:30 in the morning that she's not being harassed, which is the first thing you learn, that you're not supposed to argue with someone if they're feeling mistreated. What about the fact that maybe you are legally allowed to check her ID 50 million ways and have cops who don't realize that a date is not your expiration date, but your date of issuance, even though they've had opportunities to check everyone's IDs for years, even new ones, they're new for a year or whatever. But they don't specifically say, that's like my thing with Gaddam. They don't specifically say, here's what we did wrong and we'll do differently. They give you the bromides, which is, we care about diversity. We're so sorry people's feelings were hurt. Because they're lawyered up. They don't want to get bad PR. They don't want to get sued. But that does not give faith to anyone in our city that they have any accountability to us for the police powers we give them. So whatever happens with the law on this, and I think they're wrong in the law, but I'm not a lawyer. They'll find some way maybe.
I just feel like morally, I have no faith in them.
Why would a black student go to Yale?
Gotta.
I don't understand, because I'm not black. I understand it's a great school. You learn
I
a
didn't
lot.
go to Yale.
But if you're in your dorm and they're not even going to admit that, no, we're not going to question your
No,
ID
that's
for 15
not
minutes.
the question.
at
That
10 in
can't be the
morning.
question, because wherever we go as people of
It's-
color,
exactly.
we
Why
ought
do we
to
go
be
to-
Ought to be able to
to
go.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Exactly.
I'm not
Right,
gonna.
I'm not saying
gonna
they
say
shouldn't be
that.
allowed to go.
Thank
Of
you, Beth.
course.
No. Because
We can't keep
because us, like
running-
everybody
Also-
else, want whatever that educational
Exactly.
space
Black
is
kids go
that
because
Yale
it's
provides,
Ivy League, just
we
like white
want
kids
that
go
too.
because it's an Ivy League school, because the connections that you have from going to Yale mean something out in the
Why
world.
should a-
That's why black
exactly. So
kids go
why
to
should a
Yale.
black
That's why
kid
white
be the-
kids go to Yale.
Why
So
should a
how-
black
I mean,
kid
why not
who's
getting
already
those
starting
connections?
off way behind the starting line
Because you
not get at least
despise your
advances?
Yaleness.
What is it?
you despise
So thank
Mother
you for
Yale.
answering. So what you're saying to me is, because that's what I don't understand as a white person. 'Cause
And as a Yalie.
yeah, but why you'd go, and I understand why you're saying, 'cause everyone has to make that choice. You have to weigh the pros and cons, right? The con is
And then even so
I'm going
much
to be
weighing the
treated the
pro-
way I'm treated in America, but the pros is I want the opportunities people have in America.
I
Yeah.
see. I think.
Joe?
See, that's very
Yeah.
white. 'Cause
Yeah.
That's
That's
very
what I
white,
heard you
Paul.
say.
You know why? Because we black. I think we think
Paul,
about
why
things
do
very
we-
differently than
Yeah.
that.
So with all the police brutality, why do we even go outside?
Exactly. Why do we go to the mall?
Why do we go
Why
to
do
the
we
mall?
shop in any of the
Exactly.
stores?
I mean, we want the same thing.
Why do we travel up and down the highway?
We want the exact same things for our family and our and our friends and our community.
same
just
opportunities.
Like anyone, same
Yeah.
opportunities.
And when we did
just
try
like
to have
everybody
black
else.
towns and black stuff, it got
They
burnt
White
to the
people
ground.
burned it down.
And
Why-
John LaRico
Not
writes
so
in.
you-
It's like white people don't want us, but they don't actually want to leave us alone.
I want to ask you something about that. White people want us, but they don't want to leave us alone.
But they want to leave us alone.
John LaRico, they train with the state police. Thank you, John LaRico, for that comment on Facebook. So white people don't want us, but they don't want to leave us alone. So I want to ask you about shopping and not being left alone.
Oh!
Okay, so this week I was talking to Tony Harp, who's African American. He says, "You hear what happened at Yale?" She goes, "We live with that every day." And by the way, thank you for schooling me on Joe Ganim. Thank you for schooling me about being a black person at Yale. And you're a black parent at Yale, Joe.
You are. Bless you.
So Tony Harp said, "Oh, we deal with this every day." She said, "I'm mayor of the city. I go to shop in the Milford Mall. I was just trailed in the Milford Mall. They followed me around like I was going to steal something." And she said, "You know something else? Something happened at a downtown boutique 6 months ago that I'm still really upset about, and so was the mayor of University Park, Illinois."
Mm-hmm.
Now, Tony Harp was the president of the African American Mayors Association. Just finished her term. She invited mayors from around the country to. She was really proud to bring them to New Haven to show New Haven to them for a conference. She took Mayor Covington of University Park, Illinois, shopping. So it was December. Tony Harp, Mayor Covington, Tony Harp's African American police escort. They went into Wave Gallery, one of Tony's favorite stores. And I got two very different versions about what happened that day in the store. And they're still feeling it 6 months later on both sides.
Oh, this stuff don't go away.
All right, so they go into the store, and Mayor Covington has a fur coat on and a lot of bags. And Mayor Covington felt like as soon as she was in, they just wouldn't leave her alone. That this woman would not pay attention to anyone else in the store. Because, "Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I take your bag? Can I help you?" She said, "We're just looking. Can I help you?" And finally said, "I got to get out of here. I can't take this. I can't believe I'm being treated like this." So they left. So she said to me, I talked to Mayor Covington, "What, do they think I was going to steal something?"
Yes.
There with a fur coat and with the cop, with the mayor of the city. and Mayor Harp said, "I can't believe this happened because I love Wave." And the owner apologized to her, wrote her a letter. And this is 6 months later, and Tony said she goes to conference. Mayor Covington's still upset. So I called the owner, who I know, Phyllis Satin. She said to me, "You wouldn't believe about this. I cried this for weeks. When they came in that day, I was in the back room. And one of my employees, who's a former New Haven school teacher, ran in and said, 'Mayor Harp's here. I know her and I know her daughter. They're the greatest. I'm going to go out and help them.' So this person went out, and Phyllis said, 'I always tell them to show people that you really want to help them,' and blah, blah, blah. And so I just kept asking him, I think I'm going to steal anything. He's like, 'I'm going to help them.' I said, 'Can I help you? Can I help you find something?' And then they left, and they thought she was being insulting. And I said, 'Why don't you tell Mayor Harp that?' She said, 'Well, I thought that as a white person, if I said that.' First of all, she said, 'I understand why they felt that way.'
Did she cry?
She cried for weeks.
Mm.
Anyway, she said, 'I understand.' So
White
Phyllis
women
Satin
sure
said,
do cry.
Phyllis Satin said,
They could give the water to Somalia with all the
She
tears
told
they
me-
have.
She told she told me the reason.
Sorry.
I said, "Why don't you
You
tell
know.
them that in fact this person did know you and she's trying to help?" And she said, "Well, first of all, I understand why they felt that way because the different experiences they have in America and they're always bothered. Second of all, I felt like I would sound defensive and trying to explain it and make excuses. I thought it was better just to apologize." What do you guys think?
Markeisha and I was in Wave in the fall, last spring.
Sometime, maybe it was last year because I feel like it was cold.
They
Now,
knew you,
now
Babs.
let me tell you something. I've been shopping at Wave Gallery when they started at the Taft because I used to live in the Taft, and I used to shop at Wave.
33 years.
Yes. So I've been. Listen, you can pull up my name in their database, and it goes back that
Don't
far.
go pulling back up your name.
So I have been shopping in Wave forever. Love it. They have vegan chocolates. I could tell you all the inventory. I could tell you when they put it in little Pandora boutique inside of the boutique. I've been a fan. So when I went in that day with Markeisha, which I normally go in there all the time, I buy stuff, jewelry, chocolates, gifts. We were in there, and I swear to God, the two men that were in there that day working spent so much time following us. And I try to be light about it, right? I'm fun. I try to, because black people are always concerned about how white people are going to perceive us in spaces.
Mhm.
So we were in there. When we left, I said, Markeisha, I just felt like they just was thinking we was going to steal something because they were on top of us now other people were in and out. And I went on social media. I took them to Instagram.
Were they white?
The other people? Yeah.
No. The people following you.
Yes.
Okay.
So I
Key
went to
part of it.
Instagram and tagged them in. This is the first time in my life in Wave that I was treated this way. And they followed up with we felt so bad. They called me. I talked to them. They gave me some explanation of why.
What was the explanation?
The explanation was, you were so much fun. We just wanted to be attentive to your needs. We didn't want to offend you. We wanted to make sure that you were being, taken care of. That was their
Do
thing.
you think it's possible we white people sometimes try to overcompensate by
No,
overdoing it
I
and trying to
really
make
think
attention?
that they thought we was gonna steal,
really?
and that's the part that they don't want to own. They don't own that part.
Because in purely profiling terms, you're not the profile of someone who would steal.
Unless they have an exorbitant amount of black people to go in there and steal, then they have no reason to think that just the one or two black people that come in there. Because I bet you if they just took a count,
I thought it's not about race, about who steals.
tell them that. I already know
And
that.
I think it's also, like Bab said, there were other people in and out of the store. We were just there longer because we were browsing. So it's a question of like, why are you paying us so much attention? Like they weren't giving that same. And if you're not us, you should be offended by that kind of service, right? Because they're not treating their other customers so well, apparently, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not getting that level of service.
There you go.
I mean, we spend quite a bit of money, and
So what do
I
you
just
think about
bought
the Mayor
gifts from
Covington
Waves
incident? Do you
for
think-
my sorority
Do
sisters.
you think they
so
thought she was going to steal with the fur coat, or do you believe that this was someone who knew Mayor Harp and wanted to give them
No,
attention?
I would want to know from the woman who ran to the back and said, "That's Mayor Harp." Did she come out and say, "Hi, Mayor Harp. How can I help you today?"
Joe?
Based on what Babs and Markeisha experienced, this is obviously a pattern of the store to follow minorities around. It's clear. Like you say, it's going to be simple. Hi, Mayor Harp. How can I help you today? Hello, Babs. You've been in
it's
our
either they
line
follow
for-
us or they ignore us. I had that same experience at the furniture store out there on Blatchley
Right.
Avenue.
They act like you don't exist.
That was like,
yeah, that's that.
I walk in.
You
and
can't afford this. So I'm
I
not going
walk
to
in,
waste
they
time
barely
with you.
say hi to me.
Yes.
The other white people come in behind
Hey.
me, 20 of them. Oh, let me get you some tea. Let me get you some coffee. Oh, how are you? Blah, blah, blah.
Well, maybe
I'm
they
in
thought
there.
the white people were going to steal.
No, they trying to butter the white people up because they think they have money.
And I'm buying stuff. I put everything I have. The New Haven Woodworks. What is it?
Yeah,
Fairhaven
Fairhaven
Woodworks. And I remember going there when the father still owned it. He was a lovely man. He would talk to everybody. They used to have black people working there. I go in there and I was so incensed. I came back. I talked to Markeisha about it. She's like, Baz, we just have to stop shopping in those spaces.
All right. So, have you seen the viral thing going around the Laurel Yanni? That some people hear Laurel, some people hear Yanni, right? This is the classic incident of that, right? In situations because of your past perceptions of what's going on, or them trying to be friendly, and everything. It gets lost in translation, so people hear different things of what's going on.
I know when I am being racially profiled. I know when I'm being treated unfairly because of the color of my skin and my size and my weight. I know what that is. I'm not making that up. I'm not imagining that. I'm a woman. Do you know how many degrees I have? Do you know where I've worked, where I've been in my life? I know unfairness and injustice when it slaps me upside the head. And this is that. That's what it is. I know when I'm in a restaurant and I'm not being treated right. I know when I'm in these boutiques when I'm not treated right. I know this.
So Harry, it's all lost.
No, I'm not saying that because I'm just saying Babs can't be 100% right 100% of the times, right? So, but here's the thing.
Sorry?
But and I'm talking, and I'm talking about the mayor and that person. I don't even know what happened with Babs and Markeisha, but in
That's
that
what makes it a
situation, they
pattern.
were trying to be helpful, and it came off wrong. And it's just
No,
because it
that's
gets
a
lost in
pattern.
translation.
That's a pattern.
I'll say
The
this,
way you
I'll say
explain
this.
It is a pattern because, like Markeisha said, if I'm somewhere and I see the mayor, I always say, "How are you, mayor?" I'm always. Hey,
But the
how you
truth
doing?
is, they
Even-
didn't know it was the mayor.
But
I
the-
bet you.
You know, I run into John DeStefano. I run into John DeStefano in class, and I would still say, "Hi, mayor." I still call him, "How you doing, mayor?" You know, I would still address him as his last office. That's what you do. If that's how they really felt about it, and I'm not like if she felt excited about Mayor Hart,
She should have said it right then
Yeah,
and
and
there.
just be like,
Hi,
Mayor
Mayor
Harvey,
Hart.
let me know.
No,
And then Mayor might have said, this is the mayor of so-and-so.
Right.
Well, welcome mayors to
Exactly.
the store. Just let me know if you need anything.
You
And then you
gotta
would have left
sit
those
back.
women, the woman in the fur coat, you would have let that. Like, do you need me to close down the store? Is
Let
that
me
like,
tell
so
you
you guys
this.
can-
Let me
top
tell
of
you
it,
this
what-
quick story.
Look,
I
can
had a
just
comment.
interject
I
this?
saw Bruce Alexander somewhere. You know Bruce Alexander. And
Vice President of Yale.
we used to serve on some committees and stuff together. And you know, sometimes white people, when they see you out of context, they don't know you.
It's true.
So this
That's
is
true.
one time where I was wrong, right? Or I think at least in hindsight, I think I was wrong. So I saw him, and I didn't think he knew who I was. So I was like, "Hi, how you doing?" He didn't seem like he knew who I was.
He has this really down, cast
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
demeanor.
So I introduced myself. I was like, "Hi, I'm Babs Rose." He's like, "Babs, I know who you are." I said, "Well, you know, sometimes white people when they see black people out of context, they don't know who they are." He took such offense to that. He wrote me a handwritten letter. Swear to God, he wrote me. He's like, "Dear Babs, I know who you are. I know the work that you do in this community. I am a fan of yours. Blah blah blah. I know you when I see you. Love, Bruce," or whatever it was.
Oh, that's nice. Hope you get
And
that letter.
I felt some kind of way because I really thought, you know, because when white people sometimes see you out of context, they don't know you.
What if Joe Gannon walked into Wave with a Yale cop? Well, you guys opened my mind today. I love so many reasons I love doing Pundit Friday with you guys. You really make me see the world in a different way. And today, whether it was state politics, higher education, shopping in a store, thanks for being on the show every week and adding so much to the dialogue. Thank you for
Thanks for
listening to
having us.
Dateline New Haven and WNHH-FM. Thanks to the best pundits around anywhere. Babs Rolls
That was a
Ivy,
great story.
Markeisha Ricks,
I love
Joe
that.
Ugly, and Harry Drost, and coming back with us next week, Norm Rodriguez Reyes, and maybe, well, maybe we'll get Marshall in here one day. We'll see.
Whoa.
Marshall Cruz.
We're gonna take it out
Harry put wrong.
with the Afro-Semitic experience
Oh, thank Harry
performing.
for trolling me all
I
through
wish
the
I
show.
knew how it'd feel to be free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. Now we know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Book it and fly free with us all weekend long here at WNHH. Home for community radio.